Hey everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. Well, I've got another interview for us today, and it's not often, with the exception of when I interview Christopher Ward, that I get to interview another British watch brand. So I would like to welcome Sam from Author. Thanks for joining us, Sam.
Hi, how you doing?
Hopefully it won't get too confusing, there's two Sams, but hopefully people that are watching this know who I am, so we can distinguish between the two. For anyone that's not heard of the brand, these are very distinctive looking watches, but I'd love to hear a little bit of a background, maybe about yourself to start with. How did you get into watch collecting, and then we'll move on to the brand and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. I guess I started early. I was lucky enough. My granddad worked for Swatch, and as part of, not necessarily actually to do with the watches, though, he worked as an engineer for the original smart car, and he that had like attachments to Swatch originally, and he was part of the engineering team. He came from a car design background. And I then came, he used to come back from Switzerland with all the original Swatch watches, all the pop watches, all these colourful things, and I used to collect them. And then eventually I went to university. I studied car design, similar to what he did. And then I fell into product design when I was there. And my first job was as a watch designer. And that's when the love of watches really took on a next level. Because up until that point, again, I was just following, what I was doing when I was collecting Swatch watches. So I moved on to G-Shock. I moved on to anything that I could afford. And then, eventually became a watch designer for a company in Birmingham, which was the first step into watch design.
Yeah, people forget that about the smart car, because wasn't it Swatch and Mercedes at the start?
It was, yeah, it was Swatch and Mercedes at the start, and he obviously wouldn't come home with and show me off what he was doing day to day, but he has a loft full of old drafts of the original concepts and prototypes, and it's just so beautiful to see these things. And I just remember as a kid getting so excited, actually being allowed to see the drawings he'd come home with. We're looking at like the prototypes of the Mondeo and other contracts that he was working on. And it was just always stuck with me that now I can absolutely apply that passion in my actual job.
When you contacted me the other day, this was the first time that I'd heard about the brand. And I think what intrigues me about them is the very distinctive style. I'm interested to know how you got started and how the initial release went. I know you're currently doing a Kickstarter, or you're about to launch one. Was that how the brand started originally?
Yeah, so if we rewind like 10 years ago, we launched the first collection on Indiegogo. We originally applied for Kickstarter, and I don't know whether it was something to do with rule changes at the time or the way that they originally accepted projects, but we grafted long and hard for this crowdfunding project for the first collection. And at the final hurdle, we weren't allowed to present it on Kickstarter. And we thought, am I allowed to swear on this? Like, shit, like, are we going to really, what are we going to do here? Like, what are we going to, this is an absolute nightmare. So we ended up launching it on Indiegogo, and the original launch was okay. We managed to fund the full project. We combined it with, our own savings, and we presented the watch at loads of design shows and lots of gift shows and lots of enthusiast shows like classic car shows at the time. And the initial launch went so well because we felt we came up with something quite original, and lots of other people did, and it just has carried on ever since. We're on our 9th collection now, and we, COVID, except that obviously threw a massive spanner in the works, but we essentially do one collection every year and keep them limited and try to do something different, and that's the general gist of the designs that we do. Essentially trying to show off this gradual evolution in the watches we do, in terms of the stories it's telling and the finish of the components. But yeah, that's essentially it in a nutshell. I could talk about it all day, and sometimes it's difficult to stop me from talking about it all day. But yeah, that's the simple explanation of it.
You know that time's going fast when you think about Kickstarter being around for 10 years.
I know. It's 10 years plus. Just, yeah. And it's amazing to see how it has transformed. Like, it's an absolute powerhouse now. But at the beginning, it was still operating in such a niche. And the kind of designs and innovations that you're seeing nowadays was nothing like that 10 years ago. And like, their rules have even changed. So we're in a fortunate position where the product does qualify to be accepted onto these platforms. But I remember at the time, yeah, it was very difficult to adhere to their checklist of things that they expected. I think at the time, I think it was basically too finished was their problem. Like, we were essentially going to them with a almost finished product, whereas that's kind of what they expect now. Yeah, it was odd. Very odd, but yeah.
Do you think that's for the better? Because I think early on, a lot of the watch projects, I'm thinking Yema, the guys over at Veya, a couple of the others, they did really well, didn't they? And it seemed like it was because there was a few probably similar to yourself, really well-designed watches, but then it became kind of like oversaturated, didn't it? And I wonder whether that was a good or the bad thing. I've backed 2 Kickstarters, both of which the finished product was, I would say, 80% there.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I've reviewed both of these. One was Mayan, and the other one was the guys over at Walbrook, and both of them produced a really good watch. But I felt like the issues that those watches had, because this is one of the things that I think with Kickstarter, sometimes you have to expect to maybe get like a more of like a prototype. But the other things that I felt that let those two down were the end-to-end supply chain. I felt like the vision was there, but maybe their suppliers let them down. So Mayan had like a funny crown, and then the Walbrook team went with I think probably the entry-level Miyota movement, and it was just really noisy when it got it. The case wasn't, you could really hear the rotor in, and the movement that they used was the non-hacking one, so it wasn't, I don't think it reflected the price of the watch. But can you talk to me about that? I mean, your first watches, how much of did you have to outsource the entire process, and then how does the process work now? But I guess from the early watch, did you have somebody else manufacture it? Or?
Yeah, we have gone through quite a number of manufacturers and suppliers throughout the years. That as the project advances, it allows us to execute. We need the ability to execute something else. It kind of we finish this watch over here, and then all of a sudden it opens the gate to looking at doing this, and this now. So the very first watch, we didn't even do an automatic. It was a quartz. Every single, and that was purely down to financial reasons. We weren't in a position it's not like we were sitting on a lot of capital that we could invest straight into producing the exact watch that we wanted to do. I'd say only until recently that we are producing the pieces that we would love to have done from the very beginning, but it was what we could do at the time, and we thought we were going to launch this somehow and get our ideas out there. So it wasn't until our third collection where we basically started introducing automatic movements. And it seems crazy now because all of our watches are automatics, and it's a fundamental part of our brand. And it's not to say that we still get a lot of interest in the quartz. There's interest across our entire collection still. But we have managed over we want to keep, we've never had the ambition to grow this brand into thousands and thousands and thousands of units every year, and we keep it small. And so we need to work with people that can cater for that. And we've combined manufacturers from the Far East with manufacturers in Switzerland, and even manufacturers over here when it comes to the tool making for our straps. We we now know who does what the best at the price that we need to produce it for. And so when then those components come to the workshop, we're comfortable that we can stick to critical paths that we've published from 12 months ago to people on Kickstarter, for example, where I know that John, who's my business partner, who works actually in front of the assembling watches all day, those errors have been ironed out now. We know that as those pieces come to the workshop, 99.9% of the time, they're perfect because they've gone through 12 months of development. And there's never a problem when it gets to that fire. I mean, with the exception of last year, we had a fire next door to our unit. It was nothing to do with us, but we thought, oh, we've got this covered. Like, it's so streamlined now. We've got this beautifully well-oiled machine. And I think it was like the month before Christmas, this like event occurred, and it basically put us back 2 weeks. But fortunately, we'd already absorbed that time. Like, we've published this critical path that could cater for that. So we knew that as these components were coming in, it's like, okay, they fit, they're fine, they work. We test them, they ship, and it's been like that for a number of years now. Probably the same time we moved into the larger premises that could cater for all of the processes that we need to undertake. That's it. We allow it to grow every year. So any new capabilities that we need to either explore or start introducing into our watches, we'll go to the people that we work with, and we increase our network and find other places to help us. But we've been pretty happy with our current setup for I'd say about 3 to 4 years now.
So how much of the process is done in the UK? I know this from speaking to other brands. It's here in the US as well, where assembly is done in the countries, but a lot of the actual machining and the tooling of the movements and all that's obviously moved away. So how much of the process can you do in the UK? And also, is that important to you that there's more done over time, or are you happy with the current setup?
No object on the actual case itself is manufactured in the UK. We will build those individual components, and we will engineer those ourselves. So we produce technical drawings, we sketch, when it comes to things like the strap manufacturing, we will take care of that ourselves. We are actively producing a prototype watch with the same individual that produces our tools to assemble these watches, to actually build a case ourselves. That's the ambition. So the ambition is to have a watch. It's almost like we've catalogued this heritage of timepieces over the last 10 years, that the ultimate goal is to get to a position where we say, okay, this is our dream silhouette at the end here. And also, by the way, we've manufactured every single component of this watch ourselves, and we've built it ourselves. We'd never get, I don't think we'll ever get into a position where we can manufacture the movements ourselves or assemble the movements ourselves, because of the price point and the area of the market that we're operating in. But I can certainly see us getting to a point where we can manufacture the case and have it tested to the specification that we want it to. And that's almost like not exactly a secret project that's going on, but it's almost been like a development alongside the watches that you see out there. And whether we produce that in the guise under the same brand, or whether we put it to one side so we can almost have like two distinct areas of watch building, remains to be seen. But yeah, that's always been in active development. It's just hasn't been ready to kind of be showcased yet.
It's your most recent range that you released. What a lot of these watches might not necessarily be my personal style, but there is no doubt that these are incredible designs, aren't they? Nobody could say that these are like a homage of another watch or anything along those lines.
No, absolutely not.
The last range was the 1973 watches, or number 1973. I love the offset crown, obviously very industrial looking. How did this range go, and what was the design choices or the inspiration behind this particular model?
We've basically got to a point where every year we gather our thoughts and try to find a starting point. This happens usually around September time, when we think, okay, well, the structure of the brand is centered around decade by decade watch design. We're almost retelling the evolution, but modernizing it within our own design language. So, like you said, rather than just paying homage to an established style, we'll try to, gather as much information and context from that specific part in time and generate something a little bit more interesting and innovative, putting on our hat where we think, okay, if we were a watch brand in that decade, how would our watches look like, knowing what we know now and everything like that. So we last year reached the milestone of the 1970s and thought, okay, well, we knew that the beloved NATO strap was invented or first introduced into the military styles in 1973, and thought, okay, that's a great starting point. It's a strap that we've always wanted to introduce into our range that can then be transformed into other collections that we've produced. And then from there, we thought, okay, well, we've looked at styles that we've done in the lead up to that. We've done everything from racing to aviation and military and cushion cases, you name it, and thought we need to produce a diving style. So let's get to work and start generating these ideas centered around that. We're in a fortunate position where we are a micro brand, and there are 4 of us operating within the business as we speak. And we like to push the boundaries of design. So we don't want to just look at a diving watch from the 70s and thought, well, we're just going to put our logo on that style and there we have it. We want to modernize these every time. But over the years, we've built up this brand DNA that has grown to be quite unique to us, a language that people have got used to, a lot of our collectors have got used to. So we're kind of treading in the territory now where not anything goes. We still need to pay reference to the styles of that time, but we effectively want to do whatever we want to do. We want to use the colors we want to use. We want to use the materials we want to use. If something looks right and something feels right, then that's the direction we usually tend to go down. And yeah, this is what's allowed these unique looking styles to basically happen. We're designers first and foremost. Myself and my business partner and friend John, we both come from design backgrounds, and these are the things we're trying to get across. Is it doesn't just need to follow the rules. We can bend the rules. We can bend them as far as they go before they break, and that's where we get into a point where we've developed. We've almost built this Marmite situation where you've got the people that absolutely get it and absolutely adore it, and then the people that don't want to come near you, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because we need to be noticed somehow, whether it's good or bad. It causes a conversation, and that's what's kind of essentially happened with the 73. We launched that on Kickstarter last year because all of our exhibitions were cancelled. We usually like to get out and talk to enthusiasts at classic car shows and air shows and things like that. And that was all gone because of COVID. And we needed to revisit crowdfunding where we started, and felt that we could put a package together that was going to be reasonably successful, which it was. And we're absolutely going to be revisiting that this year, into the foreseeable, until we feel that things are back to how they were before, and we can rely on the face-to-face meetings and the like.
I very gratefully get contacted by a lot of micro brands, and unfortunately a lot of them I can't really accommodate them. just based on my schedule and things like that for doing reviews. But the second that I saw the watch, especially the 1973, which is probably my favorite in the collection, but when you look at the other collections, they've got a very distinctive design, and I like that about some watches, because you know that some people aren't gonna like the design, but the person that speaks to is gonna love the watch. That's going to be their personality in a watch. That's what I like.
And that's the people. We're trying to reach out to those people, because those are the people we like to meet. We like to talk to people that just want something different. And we try to. It's not like we go away every year and think, oh, what can we come up with this year that's completely different and is going to shock everybody. It's about this thread that has started at the very beginning, and like literally pulling it all the way through every single collection. So there's always references to the previous style, and there's always this there's this sort of gradual evolution from one case to another, and the ideas that we're putting across there's always something that relates to what we've done previously. But I'm the first to admit we try so hard to break as many of the rules as we can before people don't get it anymore. Like, that's what we do. We can't help ourselves. We like to just push and push and push. And we've seen success from doing that, and a lot of attention.
You mentioned that the most of the range is mechanical now, and you said that you started off with quartz. I think quartz is a great way to start a brand. I think a lot of brands, I think the ones that are very successful at microbrands like Veo, they offer both quartz and mechanical versions. But I think if you're starting a brand, I think that's maybe people sometimes overshoot to go to mechanical. But talking about the mechanical movements that you use, are they? I know you said they were Citizen branded. So is it are you using Miyota movements in these watches?
Yeah, we're using Miyota. We use the 9015. We've got an A217. We've investigated other manufacturers over the years when it's been our prototypes and development models. But we're happy with those. We can service and maintain those ourselves. And if somebody wants to do it themselves, they can do that too. And they're just extremely reliable and incredible movements. Like even on the earlier 8 series range, I don't know what it is, and we find that they're actually more stable than the slimmer series for some reason. And people kind of turn their nose up at earlier style movements, and that's absolutely fine. People can do that. But then when we've thought long and hard about a particular development in the watch and what we would need that to achieve and the kind of expectation that people get from it, then we kind of make those decisions based on that alone, rather than, how is this going to save us money? How is this going to do that? How is that going to do that? It's more a case of what movement is going to work in this watch. Like, which one are we using? Which one's the most suitable? And we've had that relationship with them for 10 years, and we're extremely happy with their products. And with this brand and with this specific collection and series that we're producing year on year, we're happy to stick to that setup for sure.
Should we talk about the new release now? You've sent me some images, so let me just flash some up here. So this is the new range. So so thanks for sending that over. Obviously another very distinctive looking. I think it's maybe it's a homage to a pilot's gauge in a plane. Yeah, I'd love to talk through the inspiration behind this one.
Yeah, let's do that. So I think what year would it have been? 2016, 2017, we released a 1940s edition pilot watch. And it has been so incredibly successful for us that in the background, as we've been releasing every collection, John and I have been basically screaming to do this almost like modern warfare take on it. And because we're both born in the 80s, we thought, okay, we've got to do something really, really special this year. And we've essentially created 10 separate designs this time. So we've only ever done that once before, where they've got completely unique things going on each dial variation. We've basically chosen every year in the 80s, packaged them up within this collection that we've lovingly called Final Countdown, and taken reference from various military hardware, airplane insignia, events that occur throughout 80s military development, and produce them in a case and watch that we've kind of proudly just called ourselves, rather than thinking, what did watches look like in the 80s? What did they do? This time we've just thought we're just going to go hell for leather on producing something that is no one has possibly seen before, allowed some pretty cool looking dial executions and material finishes to occur. So what you're seeing right now are essentially we start with the sketches, we produce our initial CADs on a piece of software called Illustrator. We then move on to Rhino 3D. And at that point, we sign off the components, have them engineered in Pro Engineer, and we publish all the technical drawings as well as the 3D models ready for rendering. So we use a package called Keyshot, which is something I dabbled with at university and have kind of allowed to develop as a watch designer for this brand. And we're now actually building the prototypes as we speak, for this collection, ready for final photography when it comes to the actual Kickstarter campaign. But we didn't want to just hide away and not share these with people. They're as close to a real life representation of what the watches will look like. And we're pretty confident that our critical path is sort of built to reach the quality that people have come to expect from us now. There was no reason for us not to start sharing these drawings with people. So every September we sit down with our followers and say, okay, well, what do you want to see this year? These are the designs we're thinking, and they put their thoughts across, and we spend months and months developing this collection with them, and we share these ideas to watch forums and Facebook groups and all these kind of things. And it's become a lot more full on every year, for sure, that's for sure. And you get a lot of reaction to them. Let's just say that. You've got to remember you're sharing these to everybody. So as much as people love them, people hate them, and that's fine. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, we're not purposefully going out there to annoy people. We need to be different to be noticed. And it's nice when people do turn around and say, oh my God, that is amazing. And because they've never seen anything like it before. And that's what we're trying to tap into.
I'm amazed at this, that you think the watch collecting community has strong opinions on things. This is a complete eye-opener to me.
I have to say, it's out of my comfort zone, because I don't like reading reviews. I don't like reading comments. It distracts me, and it stops me from doing the things that I think are right about our brand. And it's been a real learning curve for me to, not that I can't accept criticism, but it's when you've put so much time and effort into something, for you might have 1,000 comments, and 999 of them are, they think you're right, and it's always that one that is just like, oh, this is terrible, and it just sticks in your mind, and you think, oh no. But that's part of the parcel of running a watch brand that's so distinct, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the details then? So this is you've got 3D models,
Yeah, John's. We're following the same critical path as last year, the same timeline as last year, but with a bit bolted onto the beginning. So we spent way longer on the development of the watch this time, because we wanted to allow it to develop and evolve a little bit further than we did previously. But in terms of the development and the we're going to include everything, including filming and photography and the final assembly, and we're basically at a like for like to last year. So we launched a Kickstarter in April last year. We'll be doing the same again this year, and having a delivery before Christmas. So, but we're very transparent with this timeline. We make sure everybody knows that everybody's is constantly updated, whether it's almost daily across social media. It's certainly monthly when it comes to things like YouTube, for example, where you talk face to face to the camera and let people know that who you are and whereabouts we are with the project. And we sometimes, we've kind of have to be considerate to the people that collect our watches, because as much as we want to get excited about the next collection, we know that there's almost like a crossover within our timeline from one collection to another. And if they haven't got their watch and we're already designing the next one, it's a bit like, well, what's going on, guys? But we have to absorb that the best way we can. Otherwise, there's no way we can actually produce the watch. So September, we begin to sort of phasing the idea of the new watch after we've, finished everything like shows and crowdfunding. But we'll only ever share sketches. And then the real excitement happens post-Christmas when we start discussing the new style.
Notice you're a member of the British Watch and Clockmakers Association. I'm just interested to know like how important that is to you and why you decided to join, because it's amazing to see the number of brands on there. I know it was Christopher Ward was pioneered this with Roger Smith and a few others, but just talk a bit about why you're part of it and why it's important to be a member.
Every example on that website, they do something different, and they add something to the industry. When they first approached us to say, like we want to feature you, we absolutely jumped at the chance. And I think it's basically allowed every brand to present what they're best at in a really nice way. And when it comes to seeing this in action, the reasons as to why we wanted to be on there and what it's brought us, comes from knowing where visitors from our website come from. I see it all the time, links to British watchmakers from visitors coming from that avenue to come look at our website and explore. I just feel like we're all of a sudden part of a club. We were quite focused on, because we're different, or I like to think we produce designs that aren't just run of the mill. We kind of not exactly isolated ourselves in a way, thinking we're not really like them, we're not really like that. But then we kind of slowly learned that, well, actually we all do different things. Like this brand over here does that, this brand does that, this brand does that, and you look at that list and it's so diverse that we feel, we want to be part of this club where we're all allowed to do what we want to do. And that was essentially why we wanted to join. And it's nice to have their support and encouragement. And, it's not to say that we're in constant communications with each other, but like whenever anything's new happen, there'll be like one of the first, if not the first people to know about what we're doing. And it's just nice to, for us to link to them and for them to link to us and champion what each company is doing in this country is quite a nice feeling.
Sam, really appreciate you joining me. I'll leave a link to Author brand in the description down below, but thanks for joining me.
No, thank you. It's been great. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.